The Grand Council Hall was silent. It was not a normal silence. It was heavy, cold, like the air itself was watching. Tall pillars reached high into the dark ceiling. Strange glowing symbols moved slowly across the walls, giving the hall a soft blue light. At the center of the room stood a single platform, and on that platform stood a human, Captain Elias Ward. He stood alone. Around him, in a perfect circle, sat the rulers of the galaxy. The council, beings from different worlds, different shapes, different powers. Some were tall and thin, with glowing eyes. Some were large and armored, their bodies like stone. Others looked calm, but their eyes were sharp. All of them were watching him, judging him. But Elias did not bow. He stood straight, his hands by his side. His uniform was simple but torn in places. There was dried blood near his shoulder. Not fresh. Old. He had already fought before coming here. Still his face was calm. Too calm. One of the council members leaned forward. A tall alien with pale skin and long fingers. Its eyes glowed softly. Captain Elias Ward, it said slowly, its voice echoing across the hall. You stand before the Grand Council of Systems. Elias said nothing. The alien continued. Your species has violated multiple galactic laws. Rapid expansion. Unauthorized defense actions. Contact with restricted zones. There was a pause. You have acted without permission. A low murmur spread across the hall. Elias finally spoke. We defended our people. His voice was steady. Not loud. Not weak. Just clear. Another council member reacted. This one was larger, its voice deeper, like distant thunder. You destroyed council patrol fleets. They attacked first, Elias replied. They were enforcing law. They fired without warning. The hall grew tense. The council did not like this. Humans were supposed to be weak. New. Afraid. But this one, he was not afraid. The pale alien narrowed its glowing eyes. You speak as if you are equal. Elias looked directly at it. We never asked to be ruled. That sentence changed everything. A wave of quiet anger filled the chamber. Some council members shifted in their seats. Others whispered in their own languages. The idea that a young species would speak like this, it was unacceptable. The tall alien raised its hand. The hall went silent again. Humanity was given a chance, it said. You were allowed to exist under guidance. Elias gave a small, almost sad smile. Guidance, he said softly. You mean control. That word hit hard. The council's patience was ending. Another alien, one covered in dark armor, spoke sharply. You forget your place, human. Elias shook his head. No, he said. You forgot something first. The council watched him closely. What did we forget? The pale alien asked. Elias took a slow breath. That we are not alone anymore. For a moment no one understood. Then the pale alien let out a quiet sound, almost like a laugh. There is no alliance strong enough to protect you, it said. Elias did not respond. He didn't need to, because deep inside, he already knew what was coming. The council had already made its decision. This was not a trial. This was a message. The pale alien stood up. Captain Elias Ward, it announced. For the crimes of your species, the council has reached a final judgment. The air felt colder. Even the light seemed dimmer. Elias stood still. No fear. No panic. Only acceptance. Humanity will be restricted, the alien continued. Your expansion will stop. Your fleets will be controlled. A pause. Then the final words came. And you will be made an example. The hall went completely silent. Elias closed his eyes for a brief second. Not in fear, but like he was remembering something. Maybe Earth. Maybe home. Then he opened them again. Calm. Strong. You think this will stop us? He asked quietly. The pale alien did not answer. It simply raised its hand. That was the signal. Two mechanical guards stepped forward. Their weapons began to glow with bright energy. Still, Elias did not move. No struggle. No last words. Just one final look. Not at the council, but beyond them. like he was looking at something far away, something they could not see. Then, a flash of light, a sharp sound, and it was over. Captain Elias Ward fell to the ground, lifeless, the first human executed by the council. For a few seconds, no one spoke. The body lay still in the center of the hall, cold, silent.
Done.
The pale alien slowly sat back down. It is finished, it said. Some council members nodded. Others looked satisfied. The message had been sent. Humans would now understand their place. But then, something strange happened. A soft sound, barely noticeable. One of the smaller council members turned its head. What was that? No one answered, because far away in human space, a signal had just been received. Simple,
short, clear.
Captain Ward is dead. And on Earth, everything changed. Deep underground, hidden far below cities, lights turned on. Machines that had never been used woke up. Silent systems began to move. Old codes were unlocked. Across space, human ships stopped what they were doing. For a brief moment, everything paused. Then they all received the same message. And one more line followed. Authorization confirmed. Back in the council hall, the leaders still believed they had won. They did not know. They did not understand that in killing one man, they had just made the biggest mistake in their history. Because humanity had been patient. Humanity had been peaceful.
But now,
humanity was awake. And the galaxy was about to learn why that was a problem. The message spread across human space in seconds. No delay. No confusion. Every ship, every station, every colony, they all received the same words. Captain Ward is dead. For a moment, nothing happened. No panic. No shouting. Just silence. A deep, heavy silence. On Earth, inside the United Command Center, hundreds of officers stood still, staring at the large screen. The message blinked again and again, as if it refused to disappear. At the center of the room stood Admiral Sarah Kane.
She did not speak.
Her hands were behind her back, her eyes locked on the screen. She had known Elias Ward for years. He was not just a captain.
He was one of their best. Calm, smart,
careful.
And now,
he was gone. A young officer finally broke the silence. Ma'am, should we confirm the report? Sarah did not turn. It is already confirmed, she said quietly. Her voice was steady. Too steady. Another officer spoke, his voice shaking slightly. The council, they executed him? No one answered, because everyone already knew the truth. This was not an accident. This was a decision. A message. Sarah took a slow breath. Bring up the second signal, she said.
The screen changed.
New words appeared. Authorization confirmed. The room felt colder. Some officers looked at each other. They knew what this meant. They had trained for this, prepared for this, but they had hoped it would never happen. Sarah finally turned around. Her face was calm, but her eyes were different. Activate Protocol Black, she said. The room froze. That name had not been spoken in years. Protocol Black. A plan made in secret. A plan no one wanted to use.
But now,
it was time. Yes, ma'am, the officer replied, his voice low. He pressed a command, and, across Earth, something ancient woke up. Deep beneath the ocean floor, hidden under miles of rock and water, a massive structure powered on. Lights flickered. Engines hummed. A fleet, long forgotten, came back to life. Ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen. No bright colors. No signals. Only dark metal and silent movement. On Mars, inside a sealed military zone, rows of advanced weapon systems unlocked. Heavy doors opened slowly. Inside, machines stood ready. Waiting. Always waiting. Out in deep space, far beyond normal human routes, something else moved. Ships that were never registered. Ships that did not exist on any official record. They turned all at once and began moving toward Council space. Back on Earth, the command center was alive again. Screens lit up. Orders were sent. Fleets began to change direction. But there was no chaos. No fear. Everything was controlled.
Planned. Precise.
Admiral Sarah Kane walked slowly across the room.
Status, she said.
A technician answered quickly. All defense systems are active. Hidden fleets are responding. Estimated full readiness in 12 minutes. Good, Sarah said. Another officer spoke. What about communication with the council? Sarah stopped walking. For a moment she said nothing. Then she spoke. No communication. The officer hesitated. Ma'am, should we at least send a warning? Sarah looked at him. Her eyes were cold now. They already made their choice, she said. The officer lowered his head. Yes, ma'am. Far away, near the edge of human-controlled space, a small patrol fleet received the signal. The commander, a young human named Lieutenant Armin, read the message in silence. His crew waited. What are your orders, sir? One of them asked. Armin looked out at the stars. For years, they had followed rules, stayed inside limits, avoided conflict.
But now,
everything had changed. He gave one simple command.
Turn a fleet, he said.
Direction, the pilot asked. Armin's voice was calm. Toward council space. Across human territory, the same thing happened again and again. Ships turned. Weapons powered up. Defense systems became attack systems. Not wild, not reckless, but focused. Like a single mind, moving with one purpose. Back in the council hall, the leaders were still discussing. They believed the situation was under control. Humans will respond with fear, one of them said. They will accept their limits, another added. They have no choice. The pale alien nodded slowly.
Yes.
This action will ensure long-term stability. But then, a signal arrived. One of the council attendants stepped forward. Report, the armored leader said. The attendant hesitated. Multiple human fleets are moving. The hall grew quiet. Moving where? The pale alien asked. The attendant swallowed. Toward council space. A small pause. Then someone laughed. Of course, one leader said. A show of anger. Nothing more. But the attendant was not finished. There is more. The room became still again. We are losing contact with outer patrol units. That changed everything. The pale alien leaned forward. Explain. No distress signals, the attendant said. They simply disappear. A cold feeling spread through the hall. Impossible, one leader said. Our fleets are superior, another added. But the reports kept coming. More ships gone. More systems silent. No battles. No warnings. Just gone. The council began to understand something. This was not anger. This was not fear. This was something else. Something planned. Back on Earth, Admiral Sarah Kane stood alone for a moment, looking at a small screen. On it was a picture. Captain Elias Ward.
Alive. Smiling.
She stared at it quietly. Then she spoke, softly. You did your part, she said. Now we do ours. She turned back to the command center. Her voice was clear. Begin Phase 1. Across space. Human fleets crossed the border into council territory. No announcements. No speeches. Only movement. Silent.
Fast.
Unstoppable. And in that moment, without fully realizing it, the council began to lose. Because they had expected humans to react with emotion, with fear, with chaos. But instead, they were facing something far worse.
Discipline.
Preparation. And a promise. A promise made long ago. If humanity was ever pushed too far, they would not beg. They would not run. They would end the threat.
Completely.
The Grand Council Hall was no longer calm. The same place that once felt powerful now felt uneasy. Strange. Unstable. The leaders were no longer speaking with confidence. Their voices were lower now.
Faster. Sharper. Reports kept coming in.
And none of them were good. A tall, thin alien stood in the center, reading data from a glowing panel. Its long fingers moved quickly, but there was tension in its movements. Outer defense grid is failing, it said. Sector 7 has gone silent. Another voice followed immediately. Sector 9 lost contact 3 minutes ago. And Sector 12, the speaker paused, is gone. A heavy silence filled the room.
Gone.
Not damaged. Not under attack. Just gone. The armored council leader slammed one of its heavy hands onto the armrest. This is impossible, it roared. No fleet can move this fast. But deep inside, even it was starting to doubt. Because this was not normal warfare. There were no warning signals. No battle formations. No calls for surrender. Just silence and loss. Far away, in the dark of space, a council patrol fleet floated near an asteroid field. 5 ships. Strong. Well-armed. Their commander stood on the bridge, watching the scanners. Any sign of human ships? He asked. Nothing, the officer replied. Space is clear. The commander frowned. That didn't feel right. Humans were supposed to be coming, but there was nothing. No signals. No movement. Only empty space. Then, a soft sound. Sir, I'm picking up something, another officer said. What is it? I don't know. The screen flickered. For a second, something appeared, then disappeared. Zoom in, the commander ordered. The image focused. Nothing. Just darkness. Probably a sensor error, one officer said. The commander was about to agree, when suddenly, one of the ships outside vanished. No explosion. No light. It was just gone. What just happened? Someone shouted. Before anyone could answer, another ship disappeared. Then another. Panic filled the bridge. Shields up, the commander yelled. Scan everything. But it was too late. Something was there. Something fast. Something invisible. A shadow moved across the stars. And in seconds, the fleet was gone. Back in the council hall, more reports flooded in. Entire fleets lost. Defense stations destroyed. Communication lines broken. The pale alien leader stood slowly. Its glowing eyes were no longer calm. They are using unknown technology, it said. How? Another demanded. Humans are not that advanced. The pale alien paused, then spoke quietly. Maybe we were wrong. That sentence changed the room. No one wanted to believe it. But the evidence was clear. Humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They had been hiding. Another report arrived. Emergency transmission from Allied systems, the attendant said. Put it on screen, the armored leader ordered. The screen lit up. A frightened alien face appeared. They are everywhere, it shouted. Human ships, no, not ships, ghosts. We can't see them until it's too late. The image shook. Explosions sounded in the background. Our defenses are failing. The transmission cut off. Silence. Again. The council members looked at each other. For the first time in a long time, they felt fear. Real fear. One of them spoke, its voice shaking. This is not a response, this is a purge. No one argued, because it was true. Humans were not just attacking. They were removing everything in their path.
Fast. Clean.
Precise. Back on Earth, Admiral Sarah Kane stood in front of a large display showing council space. Red markers were disappearing one by one, each one a target removed. Phase 1 is ahead of schedule, a technician reported. Sarah nodded. Any resistance? Minimal, the officer replied. Their systems are not prepared for this level of attack. Sarah crossed her arms. Of course they're not, she said quietly. They never thought we would fight like this. A young officer stepped forward. Ma'am, should we slow down? Give them a chance to surrender? The room became quiet. Sarah turned to him. Her face was calm, but her voice was firm. They had a chance, she said. They used it to kill a man who came in peace. The officer said nothing. Far away, human fleets continued moving deeper into council territory. Now, they were visible, but it didn't help. Their ships were faster, stronger, smarter. Each attack was perfect. Every move planned. It was not chaos. It was control. Pure control. Back in the council hall, the leaders were no longer sitting. They stood, moving, arguing, searching for answers. We must gather our full fleets, one shouted. We need to strike back, another said. But where? A third demanded. They are everywhere. The pale alien raised its hand again. Slowly, the room became quiet. Its voice was different now. Not proud. not calm, but serious. "We made a mistake," it said. No one spoke. "We believed humans were weak," it continued. "We believed they needed control." It looked around the room. "We were wrong." A deep silence followed. Then one leader asked the question no one wanted to say. "What are they?" The pale alien answered softly. "They are survivors. And survivors do not fight to win. They fight to end threats. Forever." Far out in space, a massive human fleet stopped. For the first time, hundreds of ships.
Silent.
Waiting. A new command was given. Simple.
Clear.
Prepare for Phase 2. Back in the council hall, a final report arrived. The attendant's voice trembled. "Human fleets are approaching core systems." That meant one thing. They were coming. Here, to the heart of the council. The leaders stood frozen. Because now, they finally understood. This was never about one human. This was never about punishment. This was the beginning of their extinction. The galaxy was on fire. Not with chaos, not with noise, but with something far more dangerous.
Control.
Human fleets moved like a single mind. No wasted motion. No fear. No hesitation. Every system they entered changed.
Fast.
At the edge of the council's core territory, a massive defense line stood ready. Hundreds of warships, heavy cannons, shield stations. It was the strongest wall the council had ever built. Behind it, their most important worlds, their power, their pride, their survival. An armored council commander stood on the bridge of the lead ship. His body was strong, his armor thick, his voice filled with force. "This is where we stop them," he said. His crew nodded. This was their moment. Humans had moved fast. Humans had surprised them. But here, they would be stopped. "Contact?" the commander asked. "Nothing yet," the officer replied. "Scanners are clear." The commander frowned. Again, that same problem. Humans were never where they should be. Never visible until it was too late. "Stay alert," he ordered. "All weapons ready." Minutes passed. Then, multiple signals, an officer shouted. "Where?" the commander demanded. The officer hesitated. "Everywhere." The screens filled with red markers. Hundreds. No, thousands. Human ships. They did not come from one direction. They came from all directions. Above, below, behind. Like they had always been there. Waiting. "Fire!" the commander roared. The defense line exploded into action. Bright beams of energy shot across space. Missiles launched. Cannons fired. The void lit up like a storm. For a moment, it looked like the council would win. Explosions filled the darkness. Several human ships were hit.
Destroyed.
But then, something changed. The human fleet did not slow down, did not break, did not retreat. Instead, they adapted. Human ships shifted formation instantly. Some vanished again into darkness. Others moved faster than expected. Their weapons fired with perfect timing. Every shot had a purpose. Every strike hit something important. Shield generators. Command ships. Weapon systems. One by one, the council's defense line began to fall apart. "Maintain formation," the commander shouted. But it was already breaking. A human ship appeared right in front of his flagship.
Silent. Dark. Deadly.
"Target that ship," he yelled. But before they could fire, a single beam of light cut through space.
Clean. Precise.
It passed through the flagship's shields like they were nothing. The bridge shook. Systems failed. Lights flickered. The commander stared at the screen. How? He never finished the sentence. The ship exploded. Across the battlefield, the same scene repeated. Again and again. Council ships were strong, but human ships were smarter.
Faster.
More focused. They did not waste time. They did not chase. They ended.
Quickly.
Completely. Back in the council hall, the leaders watched the battle unfold on a massive screen. Their strongest defense was falling. Too fast. "This cannot be happening," one leader whispered. But it was. They could see it, feel it. Their power was breaking. Another report came in. Allied species are withdrawing support, the attendant said. What? The armored leader growled. They are refusing to fight, the attendant continued. Some are joining the humans. The room went silent. That was impossible. Or at least it should have been. Why? One leader asked. The answer came quietly. They say the council started this. Back in human command, Admiral Sarah Kane watched everything.
Calm.
Focused. No emotion. Defense line collapsing, an officer reported. Good, Sarah said. Any unexpected resistance? No, ma'am. She nodded slightly. Then continue. A younger officer looked at her. Ma'am, they're losing fast. Sarah did not look at him. Yes, she said. They are. The officer hesitated. Then, when do we stop? Sarah finally turned. Her eyes were cold. We don't, she said. Back in space. The last ships of the defense line tried to escape. They turned away. Engines pushed to maximum. But human ships followed. Silent. Relentless. There was no escape. One by one, they disappeared. The path to the Council's core worlds was now open. Deep inside Council territory, civilian systems began to panic. News spread fast. Human fleets were unstoppable. Defense lines destroyed. Allies leaving. Fear grew. For the first time in centuries, the Council was not in control. Back in the Grand Council Hall, the leaders stood together. But they no longer looked powerful. They looked uncertain. We must negotiate, one of them said. We must end this now. Another nodded quickly. Yes, yes, we will offer peace. The pale alien remained silent, thinking, watching. Then it spoke. They will not accept. The others looked at it. How can you know that? One asked. The pale alien's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. Because we already showed them who we are, it said. And they're showing us who they are. Far away, a massive human fleet gathered again. Larger than before. More ships joining every second. At the front, a single command ship. Inside it, Admiral Sarah Kane stood. She looked at the next target. The Council's homeworld. The center of their power. An officer spoke. Ma'am, we have reached Phase 2 completion. Sarah nodded. Then prepare Phase 3. The officer took a breath. Final phase. Sarah looked forward. Yes. Back in the council hall, a final alert echoed through the chamber. Human fleets entering core system. The leaders froze. This was it. There was no more distance. No more defense. No more time. Because now, the war was no longer at their borders. It was at their door. And for the first time, the council understood the full truth. They had not started a war. They had ended their own future. The Council's homeworld had never known fear. For centuries, it stood untouched, protected, untouchable, the center of power in the galaxy. But today, that illusion was gone. High above the planet, space was no longer empty. It was filled. Human ships, thousands of them, dark shapes covering the stars. Silent, still, waiting. On the surface, the great cities of the Council glowed as always. Tall towers reached into the sky. Bright lights moved across the streets. But something was different. People were afraid. They could feel it. The sky itself had changed. Inside the Grand Council Hall, the leaders stood together. No longer proud. No longer calm. They were waiting for something they could not stop. Open a channel, one of them said quickly. We must speak to them. The attendant moved fast, sending the signal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the main screen came to life. A human face appeared. Admiral Sarah Kane. Her expression was calm, cold, controlled. This is the Grand Council, the pale alien said, stepping forward. We request immediate communication. Sarah looked at them. No anger, no fear, just silence. We are prepared to negotiate, the alien continued. This conflict has gone too far. Sarah spoke. Finally. Yes, she said. It has. Her voice was quiet, but it carried weight. The armored leader stepped forward. You have made your point, it said. Withdraw your forces, and we will discuss terms. Sarah's eyes did not move. You executed a human diplomat, she said. The room went silent. He was not a diplomat. One leader replied quickly. He was unarmed, Sarah said, cutting him off. Silence again. The pale alien tried again. We can correct this mistake, it said. We can offer compensation, protection, status. Sarah's expression did not change. You already made your offer, she said. When you killed him. The council members looked at each other. This was not going how they expected. What do you want? One of them asked. Sarah answered without hesitation. Nothing. That word echoed. Nothing? We do not want your systems, she continued. We do not want your power. A small pause. We want the end of the threat. The room grew cold. Because now, they understood. This was not about winning. This was about ending. You would destroy us? One leader said, disbelief in its voice. Sarah looked directly at it. You made that choice, she replied. The screen went dark. Communication ended. Inside the council hall, no one spoke, because there was nothing left to say. Outside, the human fleet moved. Begin Phase 3, Sarah said. Her voice was steady. Final. The attack started without warning. No loud announcement. No countdown. Just action. From orbit, human ships released waves of energy. Precise. Controlled. They did not strike randomly. They targeted defenses, power grids, command centers, every important system. The planet's shields activated. Bright light surrounded the world. But it did not last. Human weapons cut through it, slowly at first, then faster, until the shield cracked. On the surface, panic spread. Sirens filled the air. Ships tried to escape the planet. But human fleets blocked every path. No one left. Inside the council hall, the ground shook. Lights flickered. Systems failed. The leaders stood in silence as everything around them began to fall apart. This cannot be the end, one of them whispered. But it was. The doors of the hall suddenly opened. Not by force, but by control. Human soldiers walked in. Calm. Organized. Their armor dark. Their movements precise. No one stopped them. No one could. The council members stepped back. For the first time, they were the ones standing alone. A human officer walked forward. He looked around the hall. At the same place where Elias Ward had stood. Where he had died. The officer spoke. You had a chance, he said. His voice was not angry. Just certain. The pale alien stepped forward. We can still. No, the officer said. One word. Clear. Final. Silence filled the hall again. Just like before. But this time, everything was different. Outside, the final strikes began. Human ships focused on the last remaining systems. No chaos. No destruction without reason. Only targets. Only purpose. One by one, the Council's power disappeared. Their fleets. Gone. Their defenses. Gone. Their control. Gone. Inside the hall, the leaders felt it. Their connection to the galaxy. Breaking. The pale alien looked at the human officer. Why? It asked quietly. Why go this far? The officer looked at it. Then answered. Because you would have done worse, he said. That was the truth. And they knew it. Moments later, the Council's main power core failed. The lights went out. The hall fell into darkness. And in that darkness, the rule of the Council ended. Above the planet, the human fleet stopped. The battle was over. Admiral Sarah Kane stood on the command deck, watching, waiting. Status, she asked. All primary targets neutralized, an officer replied. No resistance remaining. Sarah nodded slowly. It's done, she said. For a moment, no one spoke, because they all understood. This was not just the end of a battle. This was the end of an era. Far below, the once powerful Council was no more. And all of it started with one decision. One moment. One life taken. The war was over. But the silence that followed felt louder than anything before. Above the ruins of the Council's homeworld, Human ships remained in orbit, still, watching, waiting. There were no celebrations, no cheering, no victory speeches, only quiet. Inside the human command ship, Admiral Sarah Kane stood alone near the observation window. Below her, the planet slowly turned. Once the center of power, now broken, not destroyed completely, but changed forever. An officer approached her carefully. "Ma'am, all sectors are secured," he said. "No remaining resistance." Sarah nodded slightly. "Civilian status?" she asked. The officer checked his data. "Stable. No major threats detected. Medical teams are ready." Sarah turned to face him.
"Send them," she said.
The officer looked surprised. "Yes, ma'am. Send aid," she repeated.
"Food.
"Medical support. Stabilization units." The officer hesitated. "These are council citizens." Sarah's voice remained calm. "They are not the council," she said. A short silence followed. Then the officer nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Across the planet, human ships began to descend, not as attackers, but as helpers. Medical teams landed in damaged cities. Engineers repaired broken systems. Food supplies were distributed. For many aliens on the planet, it did not make sense. The same humans who ended the council were now saving lives. In one ruined city, a young alien child watched as a human medic treated an injured elder. The child's eyes were wide with fear, but the human only smiled gently. "It's okay," the medic said softly. "We're here to help." Back in orbit, a global message was prepared, not just for the council's world, but for the entire galaxy. Every system, every species, everyone would hear it. Admiral Sarah Kane stood in front of the recording system. For a moment she said nothing. Then she began. "This is Admiral Sarah Kane of humanity."
Her voice was calm, clear, strong.
"The council has fallen. Across the galaxy, millions listened in silence. They made a choice," she continued. "They chose control over peace. They chose fear over trust." A pause. "And they chose to take a human life without justice." Her eyes hardened slightly. "Humanity did not seek war. We did not want this outcome." Another pause. "But we will not allow anyone to decide our fate." Across distant worlds, many species listened closely. Some in fear, some in hope. Sarah continued. "We are not here to rule. We are not here to replace the council." Her voice softened just a little. "We are here to make sure this never happens again." The message spread further, reaching even the farthest systems. No species should live in fear of another. No one should have the power to end lives without answer. Sarah took a slow breath. "We offer peace. But understand this clearly." Her voice became firm again. "If you raise your hand against humanity," a small pause, "we will finish what you start." The message ended, and the galaxy was silent. Days passed, then weeks. Slowly, systems began to recover. Without the council, many worlds did not know what to do. They had always followed orders. Now,
They had to choose for themselves.
humanity did not take control. They did not build an empire. Instead, they helped build something new, a network, a system where no single power ruled, where decisions were shared, where every species had a voice. It was not perfect. Nothing ever is. But it was better. On Earth, a memorial was built. Simple, quiet. At its center stood a single name, Captain Elias Ward. People came from different worlds to see it. Humans, aliens, all standing together in silence. Admiral Sarah Kane stood there one day, alone, looking at the name. "You changed everything," she said softly. She remembered his last mission, his calm voice, his courage. He knew the risk. He knew the danger.
But he went anyway.
Because he believed in peace. And even though peace had failed that day, his sacrifice had created something stronger. Respect, understanding, balance. Far away, in different parts of the galaxy, stories began to spread. Stories about humans. Some called them dangerous. Others called them protectors. But everyone agreed on one thing. Humans were not weak. They were patient. They were calm. They were fair. But if pushed too far, they were unstoppable. A new saying began to travel across the stars. From one world to another. From one species to the next. Do not fear humans. Do not challenge humans without reason. But never, ever, spill human blood. Because the last ones who did no longer existed. And that lesson would never be forgotten.